Hello and good morning. I've just realised that my sound is still on my phone. I'll just turn it off. There we go. It was to check Instagram. So hello and good morning. It's Friday the 5th of August here in the UK. Actually, that's probably true everywhere, but anyway, regardless. It's circa 9 o'clock, so it's 8:57 here. And my name is Steve Pugh. I'm based in the northeast of England. And every Friday morning I do a bit of a live stream where we talk about interesting concepts from the week. We have a real-world business course called the Roadmap Alternative MBA, and what we try and do is really teach real-world business concepts which can help you with your business or career in a way that, don't get me wrong, I love business education. I'm probably the biggest kind of business education nerd you'll ever meet in terms of the traditional stuff that you do, all the theories, but actually as a management consultant, how can I actually implement it and do it, and companies hire me to really kind of do that in person. But actually, the truth is, the more I kind of build experience, I work with companies kind of around the world. It's not relevant to 98% of people. Yes, if you can afford to go to a traditional business school and do a traditional MBA, do it. You'll have a fantastic time. So 100% kind of go for that. But especially with the cost of living at the moment and people around the world, is that a lot of people don't really know what they need to know, if that makes sense, in terms of kind of growing their business or career. So what we do is bring it all into one kind of place. But also our mission is to make business education accessible, either in terms of price, time, the time it takes to do, how complex the kind of concepts are, but also acknowledging that different people like to learn in different ways as well. So we don't just learn with the written textbook, we do podcasts, we do live streams, we do lots of recorded kind of video. And the whole point is just to give you little tidbits and different ideas to really help you grow in your business or career, to really help you kind of be successful. And as a founder myself, this is what I do. I launched this business officially just over a year ago, and we're in 33 different countries now. And the live stream kind of plays a crucial part of that as well, because it's really important to kind of share knowledge and demonstrate yourself as an authority or an expert on a topic. And to be honest, there was no better way to do that than standing up literally live at 8:59, and people can ask questions and do that kind of thing. And then what I also do is pick out different concepts from the week's different stuff that's kind of gone on, kind of share my own journey, just because again you get a lot of people that talk the talk and talk the big game about how to grow a business, but actually how many of them actually do it. So you can see my progress and what I'm doing and the stuff I've got going through. That if you buy into that, that's great, but if you don't, that's kind of cool as well. So the live stream kind of plays a key part of that. And something you might have noticed, good morning Simon. And Simon, I'm not going to buy you a MacBook Pro, it's a joke from Twitter, but regardless. Yes, if you get involved, it will pop up on the screen. I'd love it genuinely if you say where in the world you're from. We have users in 33 different countries now. I recently shipped packs to Indonesia, but we've got Ukraine, Russia, Thailand, America, all across Europe, Brazil. I've got a new map on my wall so I can kind of see it, Costa Rica. And the whole point is to really help people around the world who want to learn and develop within their business, to help them do that and give them real world practical skills that often you don't want to read a 700-page book on marketing theory. You kind of just want to know what to do and how to make a change, and that's kind of what we distill down. A few things which I'm going to mention. I'm also recording today in 360. I've been playing with 360 video for a while now, and actually the part of this is to learn like the next phase of studio broadcasting, that actually I have quite a good studio here that I can use to broadcast kind of from. But the next phase of where the internet is going to go is the 360 kind of metaverse and that kind of thing. So I've been learning to record in 360 for about 6-7 months. It is a lot harder than you think it's going to be, but today is the first time I've done it in a while, just to try some kind of new things as well. But the point is, almost every business needs to try and expand and do different things. But actually, if you check it out on YouTube, because it'll be up probably later today. Actually, it takes a long time to process. It'll be up over the weekend. So search for Steve Pugh Roadmap MBA. You can also get a 360 tour of this room, so you can have a little sneaky peek around about what the setup is and that kind of thing, just in case that's of interest. So the topics I'm going to talk about today. One, I had a bit of a health scare recently, so actually I'm going to talk about that and just what it meant for me and my mindset, but I found that yesterday. What is the software as a service, the SaaS sales methodology? The truth is that if you're looking to sell a software-based product, half of the process is the same as a traditional sales process, but half of it isn't. They both still kind of interrelate. So even if you don't sell a software service, this is still really worth kind of watching, just to get a vibe for different ideas to kind of consider. I'm going to talk about how I think it's really important to think a bit like an Olympic athlete in terms of your approach to business. I think people too often, everyone understands that you can't just decide to be in the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics next year and get there. But in business, people kind of feel like they should. So I'm going to talk about how actually thinking in like 4 to 8 year timescales and to really just make lots of little improvements might be interesting. I'm going to talk about something called the Kano model from 1984, which is about how to delight your customers and why constant kind of improvement in stuff that people expect will only get you so far in terms of customer kind of satisfaction. So actually why to think outside the box a little bit. And then some other things which I'm going to mention as well, but please kind of feel free to get in touch. So we now broadcast live on Instagram. So I have a completely separate machine that's set up to do this. So that will pop up on my feed, so I'll try and keep an eye out in case any kind of comments come in. But anyone that comments on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and a few of the others, it should pop up on the screen as well. But if I get any really freaky ones, I'm going to turn it off, but it is kind of what it is. And then last but not least, in terms of kind of interviews and stuff, on Monday, I'm interviewing a really interesting guy called Charlie Holt, who is a serial entrepreneur. And I mean, he's had multiple businesses. Almost all of them, if not all of them, have been incredibly kind of successful as well. So Monday at 4 p.m, I'll be in this room, but again, broadcasting on the channels. It's something for you to kind of check out if you might be interested, just to learn and pick from someone's brains that has been mega successful. The traits and stuff that he does, what he's learned over time, that kind of thing as well. Hopefully, if you tune in. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about, which actually relates to basically I did a health scare recently, is that with, where shall I start? So I went to America probably a month ago now, got back at the end of June. Fine, no problems. And it was about 3 weeks ago, I was basically walking into the city centre with my wife, nothing strenuous, nothing major. And I just felt really dizzy, but to the point where I had to sit down, and I'm generally in pretty good health. And I didn't think too much more of it. It happened again about a week later, ignored it because that's what men do. Then it happened again just when I was coming into this office one normal Monday morning. So at that point, I thought I'd started to ring the kind of doctors. They saw me later that week, and actually I had an ECG, some blood tests, and also, what was the third thing? ECG, blood test, just general blood pressure. And it turns out that my ECG and blood pressure was kind of fine, a little bit high, but I think that's a bit of stress because I've been pushing myself quite hard. But almost in my family, really bad luck, almost every male over 50 has had cancer or has died or has a brain tumour or has a really serious history of heart attacks. So especially when you're worried about feeling dizzy and stuff, you think that's your heart, but then you start thinking, well, actually, is it something else? And then actually, so I had my blood tests and stuff last Thursday, and then I got the results yesterday, but the doctor asked me to go and see them again. And it's the classic thing, especially here in the UK. If they're fine, they don't even message you. You just get on with it. But especially when they want to see you straight away, I was like, shit. So I spent the last week or so until yesterday a little bit worried, I won't lie, just because of the family history and stuff. But it turns out that it's nothing, as far as I'm aware, touch wood. It's not cancer in my thyroid and stuff's all fine, etc. My liver could be better, which I think is what it looks like, but I was petrified that it was going to be a brain tumour, a blood clot from the flight, you name it. It was almost going through my head about what happens, what if. So I went for a walk yesterday before I actually went to the doctor's at 2 o'clock, so I went for like a long lunch. And it was that classic thing where you start to think about your own mortality, and there was so much stuff I wanted to achieve, and the business was finally starting to get to where I want it to be, and really good, family life, that kind of thing. And it was just one of those things that does hit you that I genuinely didn't know going into that room yesterday afternoon what the result was going to be. But it kind of does switch your mindset. And then I've also been working on the kind of new version of the roadmap. I've got a new website coming. Hopefully at some point there'll be an app as well. But a really important thing that I want to talk about, and it includes as part of the course, so it will be module 14 in the course, is actually to mental health, and how for someone that wants to achieve and push themselves, I think it's really important to find the right balance. That, the way and the exercise that I kind of look to do is that if you're to rate every day between 1 and 10, 10 being the worst day you've ever had and 0 being fine, or 1 being fine, over the course of a month, how do you score your average day? And basically, for me, if you're having general 5s, 6s, that's probably okay, that's manageable. But actually, if you find that too many days in a month, you're kind of at an 8, 9, 10, where you're really kind of struggling, the truth is, performance is going to degrade, it's going to affect your mental health, it's going to affect a lot of things. So I was looking for a guest to bring in the podcast to kind of talk about that kind of thing. But actually, the response was far bigger and better than I ever kind of thought it was. But why I think this is really important is that people like me will go ahead and do stuff and they work in their careers and whatever. And especially in the kind of business support, business education space, it's always about do bigger, do more, work harder, push harder, whatever. And I'm kind of half guilty of that because I kind of buy into it, but I also kind of don't. And it was just when I saw the kind of feedback and stuff that people wanted to kind of talk about it and almost share their own kind of story, I know that will really help other people, because I rarely listen to other people's podcasts, and just, even if I don't interact with it, I still listen to it. And basically what I decided to do yesterday afternoon, because of the feedback, was we're going to do a new podcast, which will be every Thursday afternoon. Basically, we're just going to call it The Safe Space, which will be a place to talk about mental health, people's own stories, things that they found useful, and basically just do it as a weekly thing every Thursday afternoon. Just to kind of share the stories of real people in their own words, whatever they want to. But actually, the truth is, there is a lot of talk about recession and cost of living, and businesses will become under a lot more challenge. So you're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs and people that are going to find it harder still in the next kind of 2 years. People, sadly, might lose their jobs in the future. And I know it's going to be a shitstorm over the next kind of 2-3 years. And because I have a platform, because I have a studio, because I know how to broadcast and podcast, it's not so much about me, but it's something I really want to kind of do. So I don't know when the first one's going to be. It's going to be soonish, but I've got a list of about 20 people now. That's half a year's worth of kind of people. But it was just something to kind of mention that, we're going to start soon. If it's of interest, great. And you can check it out, and I'll be on all of the same kind of podcast channels. Good morning, Simon. No, cool. I love it genuinely when people get in touch and I can just comment and stuff as well. Fair enough. The other thing I wanted to mention as well before I kind of forget is that from next week, we're also going to start back the drop-in classroom sessions. So from this very same room, we broadcast on Zoom. Actually, it's not technically a broadcast, it's a classroom that you can join, but it'll look the same. Where basically we walk through the course, but actually we help answer on people's questions and help people tailor the content to them. Because again, that's one of my big kind of things, is that most business education providers, it's all broadcast. So if you go to London Business School or Harvard or wherever, they have a curriculum and they tell it to you. The one thing that they kind of miss is, it's a classic consultant thing, is to listen and ask questions before you start to really kind of tailor it. Because the whole point of why you would go on any kind of course is to actually make personal improvement in whatever you do. So what we do in the 4 classroom sessions a week, so we do 2 on Tuesday, so it's 3 p.m. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Tuesday, 7 a.m. on a Thursday, and a midday Friday. You can join them from anywhere in the world, and in about a year's time, all of the kind of paid members on the course, basically that's what you're paid for. So all of the pre-recorded stuff, all of the content from the book on the website, all the videos, will be completely free. But actually, if you want to join the live kind of classroom sessions or get the book, and there's some carbon offset, and we also donate the paid ones, pay for all the people that can't afford it. And what we're trying to do is just build a community to really kind of help each other. But yes, anyone that has paid for the course will get special treatment. They can ask me personally, they can email ask me any questions, and I'll either cover it now or one-to-one kind of back to them as well. Okay, what time are we on? 9:11. I'm just going to check. Hi, hi Katie. Thank you for joining on Instagram. I think you're the first person to like and comment on Instagram, but that's really cool. And again, it's part of the challenge I had, is that when I broadcast from software called OBS, which I then put in something called Restream.io, which then sends that to all the different platforms. But annoyingly, on Tuesday, when Ashley King did her really excellent kind of presentation on Fire Festival and kind of sharing knowledge on that one, Restream have changed their policy that you can only send it to one LinkedIn account at a time. So this sadly isn't going live to my company account, the Roadmap MBA account. So I've ordered a new computer to run that stream. So in this room, there'll be about 4 computers now to run this kind of broadcast, but it's all part of the learning curve. But I had the decision of where I could have ditched Instagram, but actually Indonesia is one of my big target markets, and some of the feedback is Instagram is the main social network over there. So I didn't want to do that. So the way around it was to buy another computer or get another license. But again, I'm quite happy to talk about these things because some people find it interesting, some people don't. Okay, I'm going to do that one first. The other thing I've noticed as well, and this is part of my personality, is that I'm a stickler for improvements. So one of the big things I've realised is that these pens are quite hard to read on the board. And although I like the different colours, it doesn't work as well. So I've ordered some new ones on Amazon. But that links perfectly to what I'm going to talk about. That if you wanted to enter the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games or whatever, the NBA, if you're a basketball player, there's a lot of skill and time and effort that goes into these things that I think when people think it looks easy. I used to live with a guy, and I loved the guy, and he thought for Wimbledon, the tennis tournament, you could just turn up and play and then work your way through to like the final. And that's sadly not the case. Sadly, it's kind of 10, 20 years of hard work, effort, skill, training every day, etc. But the truth is, for business, it's very similar. That you have, it's over 50% of people now would like to start their own business at some point, or at least they like the idea of it. And what I wanted to do was just share some knowledge and thinking as someone that kind of does this a lot, just kind of spare some ideas with you. So the first thing is to pick your sport. That yes, you get some super talented people that can do loads of different stuff. So Michael Jordan played basketball and baseball. There's quite a few people that are just extremely athletic and they can kind of do whatever they want. LeBron James obviously plays basketball, but he could have gone into anything and he's just a pure kind of monster. But the point is, you need to pick your sport. So likewise, if you want to start your own business, find something that is distinctly you. What makes you mega happy? What's something that you would genuinely do for free if nobody paid you and you're just very passionate about it? I think one of the big places where people go wrong is that they get too distracted with too many different stuff and too many shiny things, and they run around chasing different opportunities and never really just focus on one particular kind of area. And I think that really kind of goes wrong. But everyone also knows that, especially when you want to, think like an Olympic athlete for your business, it takes a huge amount of time and effort. One of the major problems you have online at the moment, and I get swamped with it, is get rich quick schemes and 10 grand a month from outsource on Fiverr, and your first million in a year. What was the one I saw last week? Was I raised £9 million in 2 weeks. There's a whole culture around selling the dream of achieving stuff quick. And if you want to go for that and you want to buy into that, that's fine. But the truth is, at least for me anyway, it's not possible, it's not realistic. So again, if you want to really aim for to be the top of what you want to do in the world, it does take a lot of time and effort, heart. And that, realistically, I get into this office every day for 7:30. I leave probably at 6. But within that time, I am mega efficient. I'm quite brutal with my time and that kind of thing. But you kind of have to be, because if you want to compete in business, you're actually kind of competing against everyone else in the world, if that makes sense. So if you want to make pens and you want to sell pens to 33 different countries, you're not just competing against your local people, you're competing against everyone else in the world that does what you do. So like sport, you kind of have to be really good at it and be in it for the long term. That actually, that mindset of just picking something random that you think you can drop ship to buy stuff on in one place and then sell it somewhere else, it's going to be really kind of tough to make it kind of work. And it's just something I wanted to think about. The next is timescale. So most professional athletes, especially in athletics, it's different in the Premier League because that's like every season. But in athletics, or if you're training for the Olympics, they kind of train in 4 to 8 year timescales. So there will be 12-year-olds now that are on the GB program for high jump. And what they're looking to do is it's not about trying to peak today to be the best 12-year-old high jumper they can. It's about how do they peak in 4 years' time for the Olympics when they're kind of 16, and then again at 20, 24, 28, maybe 32. But the point is, it's knowing that actually you don't have to be perfect today, but there's lots of stuff that you can kind of work on which will help you over time really achieve your goals. Business is exactly the same. That I'm trying to build the roadmap. Although we're doing quite well, I'm building it on a 10-year time frame that in now it'll be 8.5 years time. That's when I'm almost going to judge if it's a success or not. And you often have to celebrate little wins, like when people, hi David, Like when people actually join the streams and the classroom sessions and stuff, it's often tiny, tiny little wins that it's the feeling of momentum that helps to grow. But don't expect or think that you can magically kind of do that overnight, 'cause it will be hard. The next is improvements. So when you kind of get to the Olympics, again, what people are often looking for is marginal gains. It's not if you run the 100 meters, it's rare that you're magically going to get 5 seconds quicker just by doing one secret hack to kind of do that. It's how do you improve your sleep, your diet, your start, the way you pump your arms, the angle you pump, and it's looking at hundreds and hundreds of tiny, tiny 0.5%, 1% improvements. And these things all genuinely will add up and they accumulate over time. There's lots of stats you can look at, I won't kind of bore you with them. But again, for your business, you don't necessarily want to just look at this one big swing, this one big thing that's going to make you a multimillionaire. It'll be hundreds and hundreds of little things. And then likewise, being consistent with those things. That I've streamed every Friday morning, apart from when I was on holiday, for at least a year now, and I average 13 videos a week going to YouTube, and that's all around at the same time, doing all my client work, which pays for everything, and doing all of those little things. Because the truth is, when I shout out David or I send out a free pack, and I've showed you before the kind of lead actions that I do, all of the little things will help me gradually get to where I want to get to. But it's aiming to get to those things in kind of 4 to 8 years' time, not today. Does that make sense? So again, for your own business, it's looking at actually what are the things that you can do just to get that little bit better. And then on things like the live stream, I love it when we get to celebrate, and actually I do it, say with a lady called Fina, in our Tuesday sessions, celebrate the little wins that you've done each week. And one win for me will actually be when the new black pens come on Monday, Tuesday. So actually it's easier for you to read what's on the board. That's a win that is like marginal, but I promise it will really, really help over time. And then just to kind of throw into the mix with that, I'm going to go into there's deeper levels of strategy that you really want to look at, that you have almost the beginner level and the intermediate level, which is kind of what we teach on the course. But there is some high level stuff that actually the real experts look at. And for different businesses based on where you're at, there are different techniques that are ready to ride future technology waves when they hit. So for instance, when Steve Jobs came back into Apple the second time, one of the big things that he looked to do was basically reduce all the overheads, reduce all the costs, because the company was burning cash, it was going to go bust. And people asked him, well, what's your strategy for the next to really help Apple be the biggest company in the world, as it kind of is now? And his answer was genuinely, he's going to wait till the next big thing, and that next big thing was the iPhone, which obviously I have one here. But actually, it's that point of, for your business, do all the marginal stuff, do the gradual improvement gains, but actually if you can learn the stuff for the future. So for me, as I mentioned before, it's 360 video, it's VR, and I'm learning that stuff now, so that if the metaverse does properly take off in 4 years time, 3 years time, hopefully by that point I'm going to have a really shit hot studio and really know, because it's complicated, know how to do all this stuff, so that if suddenly everyone jumps onto VR learning to really kind of feel that you're in the room, I'm going to be so far ahead of everyone else. But likewise, when some of my competition that could be the other private sector courses or even universities are still doing it the old-fashioned way, you can really make massive gains, but you can't bet the house on these huge moonshot things. And it's about finding the balance between the two. And then last but not least, it's about having a clear goal. So you really kind of you need to know what it is that you want to achieve. Why are you kind of doing it? It's, if you have the vision for what you want to do, something we cover on the course and with David and the guys when we start to kind of go through it, it's all about trying to build the business and the dream that you want. And then how do we work towards that? One of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is that they just build a business, they just do stuff. And what can often happen is that if you're good and if you're successful, it turns into this giant hamster wheel that you kind of can't get off. So you create a business, it's making money, driving revenue, you've got staff at this point, you've got commitments to do, but then you can't just quit or do anything or change because you've got responsibilities to pay people's wages and stuff. And that's why I think it's really important to have the goal really set out. What are your aims, goals, and ambitions that you want to achieve? And again, we cover that in the course. And then how do we build towards it? That for me, I'm building a business which doesn't have overheads and costs and staff and that kind of thing. And it's because that's not the business that I want to do. I want the flexibility to adapt and change and have a very low overhead operation, because actually there's something called blue ocean strategy. And when I've really looked at it against my competition, in terms of the ed tech kind of space and startup space, you have genuine like billion-dollar companies that have huge resources, unlimited cash. They've got 500,000 users. There's one called 2u.com that were about $1 billion in revenue. I think they've just, through a recent acquisition, almost doubled that. But even at $1 billion in revenue, they've lost $200 million in the last financial year, and they've lost money every year since 2014. And what that does, it shows that in a pure arms race, I can't compete against that. So I purposely don't. I'm building a business which is the complete opposite of that, with mega overheads, with a completely different approach to it, so that I can, basically that will allow me to do the free business model to really help as many people as I want to, that I couldn't do if I got outside investment or did it a different way. And the whole point is, in terms of my goal and what I want to achieve, that's what I want to do. So I'm building the business towards that. And the point is we can kind of do the same for you. So at 9:23, that little segment went on longer than I thought it would. But it is really important to kind of think about how for your own business, how to think like an athlete. Don't think in really short kind of time frames. If you do, that's fine, but you might be a little bit disappointed. But actually look at the marginal gains, look at the little things that you can do over time, and I promise it will kind of add up. My name's Steve Pugh. If you catch this on YouTube or any of the other kind of platforms, I'd love it if you give a like and subscribe. We talk about lots of kind of business and entrepreneurship stuff. I do tech reviews, we do podcasts, and if that's interesting to you, I'd love it if you follow and get in touch. And if not, no worries, have a great day. Okay, perfect. So next, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, I think is relevant to a lot of people, and especially in the kind of tech space, is that you have a different way to sell to customers, which is half the same as a traditional sales pipeline, or half of it's different. So in the traditional Roadmap MBA textbook, I had these printed in November, but for the new website and basically for version 3, which is going to come out soon, there's some extra pages and content that I'm actually adding into it. And one of them is this. So basically it's all to do with inbound sales, e-commerce, and the SaaS kind of sales methodology. Hi Simon, I'm glad you liked the reviews. And one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about is actually how and why this is different, and almost that if you sell software as a service or anything which has a service-based element, there are two sides to it. So the first one, so okay, part one. So with any sales process, you have an open when you first say hello to people. Then at some point, you try and close them and actually get the sales. That's at the other end. So whenever you try and sell something, essentially you at some point say hello to people. Hi, I'm Steve, I sell a business course, do you want to buy it? Then they either buy it or they don't buy it. What often happens is they ask for information. Then you provide information, they ask more questions, they investigate it. And basically what often happens is there's lots of stages to really help you close your first sale. So if you sell cars, for instance, that's kind of how it works. So you have part one, you open, you go through and you close. One of the big differences with software companies is often this huge investment and time that goes in, but there's a second part to the sale, which is really interesting. So even after you've got the first sale, which is really important to go into Microsoft and get them to buy your app or whatever. So really kind of go through that process and close your first sale. But then there's a second part, which again is similar, but it's a different thing, because basically your original sales team to get people in first would be exactly what you think of sales. So it's how you approach people, and you have your lead actions to really pick up the phone and really get through and close the deal. Part two, in terms of the software SaaS sales system, it's a much more of a consultative, hand-holding approach that actually the first step during that same process that you actually can achieve what you said you would do. But the real big thing, it's a different process, it's a longer sell almost. This is your customer care team, your customer care, your onboarding, your support, tech support, etc. to really get people a great experience. These are the people that will train people in the software, etc. But because 90% of the revenue is actually driven in software after the original sale, what you're really looking to do is two things called cross-sell and upsell. So what we're looking to do is that you get someone into your ecosystem. So it's kind of what I've mentioned before, where someone buys into a product. So say I buy a lot of Apple stuff. Your first entry might be the iPhone. So you get in, oh, I actually quite like this, but actually the more you get into the Apple ecosystem, oh, well, actually, did you know that we also do AirTags in case you lose your stuff? If you ever need a laptop, we do really good laptops. Actually, if you like music, we also do a music revenue system. But almost there's a lot of stuff that people can do, and a cross-sell is how you then take your product servicing and offer more things. So even if you have a cupcake business, people come in to buy cupcakes, but actually, do they want a coffee as well? Do they want somewhere to sit? Could you, within your same coffee shop, offer daycare, creche services? But the point is, you have your core customer, but actually, can you sell other things? And in software, there's a running kind of part of it. But likewise, you might have a loss leader product that you use to get into IBM. But actually, once they're in and they kind of like that, but actually, can you do different things? And how about this and how about that? And really kind of cross-sell your different offerings. The next is an upsell. So this is where actually I use a software called QuickBooks to do my accounting on. For the size I am and what I do, I use the package which is like $16.99 per month. But at some point, if I wanted to, do payroll on it, do different levels of tax and reporting, different types of accrual-based accounting, etc., I need the more expensive package, which offers me more stuff. Or it will be the same with my kind of streaming software. So when I use Restream.io to do this, to broadcast on, I have the professional package, which now I think allows me up to 5 or 8 different platforms. Annoyingly, only one on LinkedIn, but anyway. But then actually, if I wanted to go to like 30 and have better tech support, better quality audio and visuals, and some other stuff as well, it then jumps to like 90 quid a month. But the point is, it's an upsell. So if you can get someone in, build trust, like the product, and don't get me wrong, I really like the Restream product. An upsell is when they can sell you on more features, more different things over time, and really kind of keep them happy. But the other big thing about a SaaS software model is retention. So what you want is to land the first sale with someone, but know and acknowledge that 90% of your revenue actually comes down the line. So because of that, for one, you need to give them a great customer experience, get them using the product, get them using all the product features, get them hopefully enjoying it and telling people about it. But then likewise, if they leave 6 months later, you're going to miss out on all that lifetime revenue that you would otherwise love to have. So in terms of your customer care, it's really important to keep people on that wheel, on that service offering, and then over time keep improving revenues. And again, why it's really important to kind of tech-based companies is that if, for instance, with the roadmap, we offer free courses to people, the management really like it, what you hope is that it becomes part of their kind of process that they use to train up their staff every year because they kind of value. That means that in future, we don't have to do part one of the sale because they're already sold on the process. And the hope is over time, you just gradually increase your user base for either your monthly recurring revenue or your annual recurring revenue, your ARR. And that's often what investors look for because that can grow exponentially. But as long as you don't mess it up, it's a really important part of the process. But it's still a sales kind of process. But this is where, if you're in this kind of arena, customer service is mega important, tech support is mega important, and actually that hand-holding to really improve people's love of the product, are they using the product, are they using it properly, is actually in terms of a SaaS e-commerce sale a major part of it. So this is less relevant if you sell a one-off gift via an e-commerce shop or you sell a one-off TV, say. That's not for this, that's just a traditional sale. But actually all the support and everything that goes with it does take a different mindset. So if you want to create a business like this, You might need to think about this, think about how you're going to manage these customers, how you're going to look after them, how can you cross-sell and upsell to really help maximize the kind of revenue. My name's Steve Pugh. If you kind of catch this on YouTube or LinkedIn or anywhere else, please kind of like and subscribe if you're interested. There's hundreds more videos. I think we've got 940 videos now. Please check them out. Most of them stuff for you, and please kind of get in touch if there's any topics that you want me to talk about or do as well. Okay. Where are we at? Hello to people, users on Instagram as well. I genuinely appreciate it when you join. If you comment, I should be able to see it, which is quite cool as well. And it's just part for me of learning the different kind of platforms and seeing what works and stuff as well. But it will show up on my screen and I'll keep checking, I promise. So in terms of my topics today, I've talked about things about being an Olympic athlete. I've talked about the SaaS sales methodology. I spoke at the start actually how I had a bit of a health scare recently that I'm not 100% health, but actually I thought it was going to be a lot worse. And because that I was, a little bit worried about things, and it was just that went on to talk about mental health and, the new podcast that we're kind of going to start. But I'm going to finish on So what I try and do on the podcast, and especially if you check out any of this on YouTube, is give really short clips and ideas just that you can hopefully help implement in your business. That might help, they might not, but the whole point is it's just to help expose you to stuff that you might not otherwise kind of see or hear about. So what I'm going to talk about now is something called the Kano model. This is really fascinating, but I'm going to really kind of simplify it right down. That if you have a product or a service, I'm going to go back to cars again because it's not everyone understands. If you make a functional product, so it could be a car, it could be a TV, it could be a computer, it could be a camera. There's a certain level of product and service that people expect for the money that they pay. So if you pay £40,000 for a Mercedes, you expect that actually the seat belts will be nice and smooth and the engine will be nice and quiet and it'll be cozy and warm and the stereo will be good. But the point is, if that is your core kind of business, one of the interesting things that the Kano model kind of looks at is you get to a point of diminishing returns where actually if you are Mercedes, you've already spent $10 billion to get to this point. But to make that seatbelt that little bit smoother, the car that little bit quieter, or whatever the functional kind of part of your product is, it's really, really difficult to then make the client experience better enough that they actually notice that the need payoff really kind of flips. So don't get me wrong, if you have an iPhone, iPhones are so good now that actually the iPhone 14, it will be technically better than the 13 which I've got, but will I buy it? Probably not, because it's not that big a jump. One of the really big things, which I really think, the topic of this talk is to talk about something called delighters. So what we're really looking to do is that whenever you sell a product or service, or whatever your kind of company does, there are things that people expect and there are things that people don't expect. And what we're looking at is this is all about how you make people feel. So expected things. So again, going back to the Mercedes example, people expect it to be smooth, good on fuel economy, quiet, etc. So once you get your product to a good standard, so it's at 90% as good as it can be, it gets exponentially harder to get to 91%, 92%. So actually investment into that area is kind of dead. So for me, with the streaming setup, I can't realistically make this much better. And even if I spent 20 grand doing it, you probably wouldn't notice anyway. The important thing is unexpected. And the whole point is you can delight your customers and do stuff that they don't expect. And these things do not have to cost any money at all, but actually can make a real difference to the delight of the customer, the satisfaction of the customer, whether they love the product and whether they tell other people about it. But the important thing is it doesn't have to cost you anything. One example of how I try and do this is that when I ship all of the packs to, again, different places around the world, I hand sign every note. And I actually try, if I can, personalise the message as well. So looking at, hi Simon, hope things are well, hand sign the note. But the point is, people can tell that time and effort has gone in. I haven't just, it's not just an outsourced process where there's no heart and soul gone into it, which hopefully to me adds real kind of value. I have had it in the past where actually, clients have sent me stuff and all they've done is put the product in a box, ship the box, and it arrives. But there's no handwritten notes, there's no packaging, there's no thanks for everything, Steve, there's no anything. And for me, that kind of loses something. And if you really kind of have passion about your product and what you do, delighters are something you can look at to really help inspire and really help drive customer loyalty and stuff, which has genuine value to the business. But it doesn't have to cost anything. Or even if you choose to invest in that area, looking at stuff which is unexpected in terms of the customer can really drive satisfaction far off the charts and far outweigh putting that same investment into expected areas. One of the examples in the various books that you might look at is actually hotels. So for instance, if you have a hotel which is a 4-star standard hotel, it's got a nice bed, it's got TV, it's got air conditioning, it's got a pool, it's got a nice breakfast. It's very difficult to actually how do you outcompete your competitors, and putting more money into a slightly better mattress or a thicker carpet will only get you diminishing returns. And actually, will the customer even notice? And will people care? If you think about the Kano model and think about delighters, where this then goes is when we went to Mexico and you got a little fruit basket. Well, I thought that was a bit tacky. But actually, a hand sign note says, "Hi Steve, enjoy your stay, management team." Something that shows that someone's made that tiny bit of effort that isn't just standard and it's personalised, goes a huge, long way. That actually, no matter what your business is or what you do, these things really kind of count. And this could also be just thinking about and remembering people's anniversaries, saying thank you, going out your way to really help someone, can delight the customer and really do massive things for your business and your customer loyalty. But the point is, it doesn't have to cost anything. So I just wanted to share this model. If you want to go into the textbooks and the theory and the graphs that kind of sit behind it, look for the Kano model 1984. Check it out. But if you're not that bothered, you don't have to. But the important thing is there's so much stuff that we can do as businesses to really help drive, new customers, get people recommending us that doesn't have to necessarily kind of cost anything. And it was just something I kind of wanted to mention. So at 9:40, thank you, Simon, for all of the comments and stuff. I just wanted to kind of wrap up. So the drop-in sessions are going to start again soon. 16th, which is Tuesday, 16th of August, you can kind of check out. Everyone is kind of welcome. Got my interviews coming up. So I'm just going to get some water. So I have the interviews coming up on Monday. So I've got Charlie Holt and I've got a few more lined up as well, which is really cool. Yes, so we're going to do the Safe Space podcast. I think that is the name we're going to go for because it says what it is. Just to help people and allow people to share their own stories. And actually, I think it's really important that, yes, all this stuff that we're looking to help grow business and stuff, the truth is I find it difficult as well. But actually, it's a great way for me to kind of, talk about stuff that I'm doing. But then likewise, I don't want people to think that this is easy and it doesn't affect me either. And I think, that kind of interaction as a separate thing is actually a good kind of shout. And that hopefully people will find value in. If they don't, I'll probably stop doing it. But, it is what it is. But thank you for your time, as always. I genuinely kind of appreciate it. I'm really glad it's Friday. I've still got to finish the new website. I've got some new stuff kind of coming up. I am genuinely happy, though, that my health isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, which is quite cool. But it does kind of prove that you really kind of want to look after yourself and stuff as well. So at 9:41, I'm going to call it quits. But have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And I'll catch you on Monday for the podcast. All right, cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.